Let me say this clearly and pay attention. I recently received a strong message that I believe was given to me to share. It concerns men who are becoming financially successful. Some of you are doing well, making good money, and everything seems to be going in the right direction. But that can also be a dangerous place spiritually and emotionally if you are not careful. I want you to understand something important. There is a real struggle around you that tries to pull you off course when your life starts improving. It can feel confusing when problems show up, even while things are going well, but sometimes challenges come because there are forces trying to derail your progress. So I urge you to stay alert and grounded. Success does not mean you are safe from temptation or distraction. In fact, it can sometimes increase those risks. Listen carefully because this is serious. When a person begins to succeed, especially financially or in status, new challenges often appear. It's not always the success itself that is the problem, but what comes along with it: distractions, temptations, and situations that require stronger self-control than before. The higher someone rises, the more important it becomes to stay grounded and alert. Success can attract attention, and not all of it is healthy or helpful. That is why discipline matters even more when life starts going well. In moments of growth, a person must be especially careful about their choices, relationships, and boundaries. Not everyone who comes close has good intentions, and wisdom is needed to avoid decisions that can damage progress. So the message is simple: stay focused, stay disciplined, and don't let success become the reason you lose direction. There is a strong warning in traditional wisdom about staying alert in relationships and personal conduct. It teaches that not every attraction or opportunity is healthy, and discernment is necessary when making choices that can affect one's life and family. Some teachings emphasize that when a person gains success, influence, or visibility, they may also face increased temptation and distraction. That is why self-control and awareness are often highlighted as essential qualities for maintaining stability. Ancient wisdom literature, including Proverbs, encourages people to avoid situations that can lead them into moral compromise and to remove themselves early from anything that could cause harm. The idea is to act wisely, stay cautious, and avoid unnecessary risk rather than trying to resist danger too closely. Overall, the message is about protecting one's integrity, making careful decisions, and recognizing that success brings both opportunity and responsibility. There is a perspective that warns about how money and success can change human behavior if a person is not careful. When financial resources increase, new opportunities and temptations can also appear, and that is why discipline becomes even more important. Wealth itself is not the problem, but it can amplify both good and bad choices. A person with more resources may face more situations where poor decisions become easier to act on, which is why strong self-control and clear boundaries are necessary. Many people notice that character is tested more deeply after success than during struggle. This is why wisdom traditions often emphasize humility, restraint, and accountability when someone gains influence or prosperity. The message continues with a strong emphasis on personal responsibility and caution when dealing with success and temptation. It warns that when a person begins to prosper, they may encounter new distractions and pressures that test their values, commitments, and discipline. In such moments, spiritual or moral awareness is said to be especially important, as success can sometimes bring situations that challenge self-control. The teaching encourages men, particularly fathers and leaders, to remain firm in their principles, to be careful about choices that could harm their families or relationships, and to maintain clear boundaries in life. Ultimately, the central idea is a call to vigilance, to stay grounded, protect one's integrity, and not allow prosperity to become a source of moral failure or personal downfall. There is a continued warning in this teaching about the importance of protecting one's family, relationships, and personal stability. It emphasizes that certain choices or influences can lead to serious consequences if a person is not careful and grounded. The message stresses that when someone is distracted or led away from their responsibilities, it can result in long-term damage to their home life, emotional well-being, and overall stability. That is why caution, discipline, and awareness are repeatedly emphasized. The teaching also refers to traditional wisdom found in Proverbs, encouraging listeners to reflect on guidance that advises avoiding situations or influences that may lead to harm or regret. Overall, the focus is on responsibility, self-control, and safeguarding one's life from decisions that could disrupt family and personal peace. This passage reflects on a section of traditional wisdom found in Proverbs, which warns readers about avoiding relationships or influences that can lead to moral and personal harm. It describes describes the importance of remaining faithful, respecting commitments, and protecting oneself from situations that may cause emotional, spiritual, or relational damage. The emphasis is on awareness and caution when dealing with temptation or destructive behavior patterns. The text also highlights the idea that poor choices in relationships can have serious long-term consequences, affecting not only individuals, but also their families and future stability. Overall, the teaching encourages people to value integrity, honor their commitments, and stay away from situations that could lead them away from a stable and responsible life. The passage continues with reflections from traditional wisdom literature, focusing on the importance of choosing the right path in life and staying committed to righteousness. It contrasts two ways of living, one that leads to stability, integrity, and long-term well-being, and another that leads to harm, regret, and loss. The emphasis is on making careful decisions and avoiding influences that can pull a person away from a disciplined and responsible life. The teaching also encourages attention to wisdom and guidance from earlier instruction, reminding listeners to stay mindful of their choices and the direction of their lives. Overall, the message centers on the importance of wisdom, self-control, and staying on a path that leads to a stable and upright life. The passage continues by reflecting on wisdom literature that warns about the power of persuasive speech and emotional influence. It describes how words can sometimes appear attractive, comforting, or convincing, but may still lead a person into poor judgment if they are not careful. Because of this, discernment is important when responding to sensitive situations, especially in relationships and private matters. The emphasis is placed on discretion, maturity, and choosing responses wisely rather than reacting in ways that could create problems or expose personal matters unnecessarily. Overall, the message highlights the importance of awareness, self-control, and careful communication in order to maintain stability and avoid unnecessary conflict or regret. This passage reflects a section of traditional wisdom literature that warns about the difference between appearances and outcomes when making life choices. It explains that certain influences may seem attractive or persuasive at first, but can ultimately lead to harm if a person is not careful. Because of this, it encourages individuals to think ahead and consider the long-term consequences of their decisions. The instruction is to remain mindful, avoid unnecessary risk, and keep a respectful distance from situations that may lead to moral or personal compromise. The emphasis is on discipline, self-control, and staying focused on a stable and responsible path. Overall, the message encourages wisdom in decision-making, especially when faced with temptation or emotionally charged situations. This passage continues from traditional wisdom literature, emphasizing the importance of integrity, self-control, and protecting one's commitments in life. It warns against making choices that could weaken personal responsibility or damage trust, especially in relationships and business conduct. The idea is that poor decisions in moments of temptation can lead to long-term consequences, including loss of stability, resources, or reputation. It also highlights the importance of setting clear boundaries in professional and personal environments. People are encouraged to act with discipline, make principled decisions, and not allow short-term gain or pressure to lead them into compromising situations. Overall, the message is about safeguarding one's life, relationships, and work through wisdom, restraint, and strong ethical boundaries. This passage continues with reflections from traditional wisdom literature, emphasizing the long-term consequences of choices and actions. It warns that poor decisions can eventually lead to regret and loss, affecting not only personal well-being, but also family stability and resources. The message stresses the importance of living in a way that preserves integrity, responsibility, and balance in life. It also highlights the role of fathers and leaders in maintaining stability within their households, encouraging focus, commitment, and consistency rather than divided attention or divided priorities. The closing portion shifts into a general reminder about the importance of engaging with positive, meaningful content and staying connected to messages that promote growth and reflection.